So, good evening, brothers and sisters. I hope you all can hear me clearly. Thank you for your time today to join us in our sharing. So today we're going to talk about our journey to marriage. So a lot of things happened and led us to our marriage. So we like to call all these instances God instances. Right? So without God, I think this wouldn't have happened.
Okay, and just a little background: we are both Protestants. Right, so we were received into the Catholic faith for myself 6 years ago, and for my husband just last year, right?
Yeah, correct. I think it's last year.
So we're going to share a little bit on our conversion story as well as our journey towards marriage in the Catholic faith. Yeah.
So shall we start with a prayer?
Yeah, I'd like you to invite all of you to pray together.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with you. Blessed are you among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Glory be to the Father, to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit.
As it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. Okay, may God be with us as we go through this sharing.
Okay, so I'll leave this to my wife. She'll start sharing about her conversion story first.
Okay, so believe that it is partly sharing on our testimony, how we became Catholics, how God was with us through our entire journey. And so for myself, I was brought up in a Protestant church, a Protestant faith. My parents were Protestant, and basically I was baptized as a Protestant in 2004. I was in secondary school then. I didn't really have a prayer life. All of my knowledge of God was actually from the Bible. Yeah, and due to some reasons, not being able to really be with the youth group at my church, I left the church and I was kind of non-religious for very long. Okay, so fast forward to my JC days, I had a friend. So I believe that God works, in many ways, one of which is through friendship, through the people around us, right? So I had a good friend in JC. She was journeying through from Protestant, and then she had met this group called Opus Dei, and it's in the Catholic faith, and she was receiving some formation from them. She had made some good friends there, and she invited me to go on a mission trip to Vietnam, right? So even though I was Protestant, I didn't really have much knowledge of Catholics. So I decided, okay, so this is a very good opportunity to do something good, right? So I joined them, and through the mission trip, I found that it was very amazing. I met this group of very prayerful people. So they went for Mass every day. They really lived charity in their words and their deeds, right? So that was my first experience of Catholics face-to-face and, knowing them more intimately than from what I heard from others. Okay, so fast forward to when I was in my second work. I'm actually an art instructor, right? So I taught people with mental illness using art, and basically at that time it was a lot of work stress, right? So at that time I think God was calling out to me because I felt that all my colleagues who were all Protestants, right? So they had this rock of faith. Whenever they had difficulties at their workplace, or they couldn't really, something that they struggle with, there's always this inner peace in them, right? So I began to desire this, and I think that was God's way of leading me closer to Him, right? So then I joined one of my friends, a church. It was a Methodist church, and I began a 1-year discipleship program through Bible study, right? Okay, there were many faith instances then, but I reconnected with my close friend, my Catholic friend. She invited me to this journey called the Camino de Santiago. It's a pilgrimage walk to Spain, and basically it's following the footsteps of St. James as he went to Spain to evangelize. right? So at that point in time, I was very busy with work. I didn't really have the time to go. So I told her, maybe not. I'm not going to go on this Catholic thing. I already have my Christian community, right? So next year she persisted, right? So she asked me again, and she told me how much she enjoyed this pilgrimage walk. And then I was like, no, on looking back, sometimes I think God is very persistent with us. Okay, sometimes He will try again and again, So at that time, I was going through a different period in my work. I was contemplating whether I should leave the job because it was very stressful, right? So I thought, okay, I'll just go. Right? So when I went, I think God really spoke to me at that trip because, everything about that trip was, I guess, very hard. Okay, so I saw that many people were praying the rosary, which was unfamiliar to me. We did this walk whereby it's 8 hours a day, so it's pretty grueling physically, all right? And basically, I fell sick on the trip, right? So, however, towards the end of the trip, I think I had recovered enough, and I felt that God was asking me to do the walk differently. Okay, my attitude towards it in the beginning was like, why is this so hard, But as I walked through the walk, okay, I felt that God was asking me to rethink certain things that I had. My friends were very kind, they were very helpful, and they were just journeying with me all the way, right? So, so at that time, I went into this chapel. Okay, so there were many chapels along the way in Camino de Santiago. And interestingly, it was the most Protestant-looking one. There was not so many statues, and things like that. So I was not so uncomfortable, right? So I went in front of this statue of Sacred Heart of Jesus, right? At the point in time, I didn't know it was that. So I prayed to God and I asked Him, if this is the faith you want me to follow you in, then help me to understand what it's all about. Okay. So, immediately a friend, came up to me and said, hey, this is the Sacred Heart of Jesus, and when we look at this statue, right, we would think of the French nun, the prayer of the French nun, and we would remember her vision of Jesus, right, appearing to her as the Sacred Heart. So, when I came back to Singapore, I realized that, hey, I've been to so many masses in Spanish, why not try to go to one in English where I can really appreciate it? So I walked into St. Joseph at Victoria Street. It's just right down the road. It was the most Catholic church I knew. Very beautiful at that point in time. Many statues. So I walked in and I saw that people were kneeling down and they were doing a prayer. So I was very blurred. It was not a mass. It was a devotion to the Sacred Heart of Jesus. Right. So when I was there, I basically heard this phrase. Okay, Lord Jesus, help me to love you more. And it was at the instant when I realized that this was God's reply to me and that chapel in the Camino de Santiago, that, Lord, if this is the faith you want me to follow you in, then help me to understand what it's all about. And really, our faith is all about growing in love and in relationship with Jesus, right? So when I realized that, it was both. It was more joyful than anxiety-driven, okay? But I think there was a mix of both because I could have joined any other denomination in the Protestant faith and it would not have mattered to my family, okay? But it was the Catholic faith, right? So, so one of the things that I have to say that really impressed me about the Catholic faith is that, when I actually went through RCIA, and my inquirers interviewed the Father Anthony at that time in St. Francis of Assisi. He looked at my cert and he said, hey, I see that you are Protestant, so do your parents know? And then at that point in time, I said, no, Father, I'm just going to become Catholic and then I'll tell them afterwards. So what my father said really impressed me. He said that, this is not something that you should hide from your parents, your family. Yeah, so, so it dawned on me that, love is hard, okay? Sometimes, we just have to do the right thing, right? So, so I went back and I told my family, and suffice to say there were some issues, but thanks be to God, they came to my confirmation in 2015, and that was when I was received into the Catholic faith, Right. So after that, one thing I would like to give thanks for is that through this journey, I've been journeying with a group of overstay, and basically I have made many friends who have really supported me in my spiritual journey, supported us actually, both me and my husband. We and in a sense, like after conversion, right, there is always this need to continually learn more about the faith, right? Faith-seeking understanding. So we are given the gift of faith by God, but we also have the responsibility of growing it. And I have to say that, journeying along with others, also like-minded people who want to deepen their faith, has been really instrumental in deepening my own. Yeah. So maybe I would like to pass the time to my husband. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you, dear.
Okay. Oh, actually I didn't share that. Okay, sorry, maybe I need to continue a bit more. Sorry. Okay, so so I wanted to also share some reflections, okay, after becoming Catholic. Okay, what were some aspects of the Catholic faith that really deepened my own appreciation of faith, which is the Holy Eucharist. So after I became Catholic, I had the chance to go to adoration. You know, I realized that, hey, there's an adoration room in every Catholic church, and that is really Jesus. You know, and you know, of course, we all know that God is everywhere. You know, we can always lift up our hearts to Him, no matter where we are in the day, to pray to Him, to speak to Him. But the action of being able to visit Him, you know, and that He is there, you know, for us as a helpless little brat, you know, for us to go and to receive Him is really so wonderful. It's like I cannot imagine any other gods who, you know, will do that, you know. So that's something that I realize is very precious in the Catholic faith. And also to be able to go to Him and to adore Him. And that is a deeper way of praying to Him, right? Also, having a relationship with Mother Mary, I think I have to mention that as a Protestant, my relationship with Mother Mary was not very good. You know, in fact, I think that I would feel a lot of negative feelings when it came to Mother Mary. And I think after learning more about her and what is God's role for her in the role of salvation, in a sense, like when we think about what Jesus said to the Apostle John, you know, behold your mother, and he told to Mother Mary, you know, behold your son, he really gave his mother to us as a spiritual mother. And during the times when, you know, sometimes I find it so spiritually dry, I cannot really pray, you know, being able to pray just the rosary could be the best prayer that I could offer to God that day. Yeah, so I have to say that, like knowing Mother Mary more and praying to her will really lead me to Jesus, which is why, I feel that after becoming Catholic, I think that is one of the most precious things that I've received in the faith. Okay, and thirdly, I think confession. Okay, we all know that the sacrament of reconciliation, sometimes it's not easy to live. You know, I remember my first confession, I think it was a mess. And I didn't really know what I was saying to Father. But I think that what I really appreciate about it is that, you know, God doesn't really need us to confess. You know, He already knows our sin and He knows our condition. But really having this act of going to Him, you know, in a confessional, and to be able to tell Him the ways that we have failed, you know, and that we are trying our best, and to receive His grace is really something that's good for us, you know. So that's something that I really appreciate, that, you know, His help, you know, in having a priest there, you know, to give me objective advice whenever I can't really see a situation well, is really something that I love, okay, being Catholic, okay. It's something that I didn't have when I was Protestant, all right. So, okay, finally, your turn. Thank you.
What I want to say.
Yes.
Okay, so anyway, to my conversion story, I was also a Protestant. So I grew up in a Protestant family. I followed my parents to church all the way until I was secondary school. But along the way, I drifted apart, okay, because there were a lot of questions unanswered, and I was quite skeptical. And okay, so yeah, so I started to drift away, and I was like kind of like no religion. Like. So I was either I don't believe in God, don't believe that God exists, or I just dislike God, because of all these things. So it went on for quite a long while, for many years, all the way until I met my then girlfriend. So yeah, anyway, meeting her is already quite a miracle, like how we met. So anyone interested, we can share later, Okay, but anyway, so yeah, when I first met her, I learned that she's a Catholic. Okay, so anyway, when I date, I date with the intention, to go towards marriage. So I don't want to just date for fun and waste everyone's time. So I knew that she's a Catholic, so I thought, okay, if I want to date this girl, then I got to respect her religion. Okay, so that's what I tried to do. So we went out, and I know that she goes to Mass quite regularly, and I went with her. So I thought I had nothing to lose anyway, right? Just go to Mass. Okay, so we went to Mass and all this stuff, and realized that, actually, there's a certain kind of peace that I didn't really feel back then when I was going to church, when I was a Protestant. So I continued going, and actually quite a lot of things happened also. I think God also plays some important people, right? In our life. Yeah, and also a lot of miracles. So I'll just share a little bit about the miracles, okay, in particular. So you can see right from the picture, it's a car park, right? So why is car park a miracle? Okay. So yeah, every little thing. This teaches us that, even very little things, we can actually relate it back to God. If you have the faith, if you don't have a faith, you just think of it as coincidence, right? With faith, you're thinking of it as God incidents. Okay. So anyway, this happened very often, actually. So we go out, and then we have to find parking spaces, and most of the time we're in a rush. Even today, we're in a rush. Okay. Yeah. So, okay, so, it's hard to find parking spaces, right? And especially when you're in a rush of time, you'll be, oh no, hey. So you'll be very frantic and all these kind of things. So normally, we will pray. Okay, so we pray, it could be Hail Mary, it could be Our Father, or we could start a rosary. Okay, and very often, immediately after we pray, parking lot is there. Okay, so there was this particular instance, which I want to talk about. I think that was last year, right?
I think 2 years ago.
That's so long ago.
Before COVID.
Oh, yeah, before COVID, yeah. So we're actually going for this exhibition in Marina Bay Sands. So we have actually circled around the basement for many rounds, yeah? And we are in a rush, actually. We're actually late for the exhibition. Like I said, we're always in a rush. Okay? So Cornelia, we were not married yet. So Cornelia actually said that, okay, why not we pray the rosary? So,
to pass the time.
So we circled a few times. Okay, so we just decided to stop, and okay, let's pray the rosary. So we started. We didn't finish the whole rosary. I think it was only the first decade. We just started, and we waited at a place. There were like a few cars in front of us. Okay, so all waiting. So by rightfully, I'm supposed to be after them, right? But yeah, so again, miracle. So after we started praying, there was this guy who came walking in, and he signaled to me, waved to me. Hey, he's pointing. Oh, his car is just right beside me. So naturally, I get a lot, right? Even though I'm behind those in front. Okay, so these are just some of the instances, and along the way, I think God also touched my heart. We went for masses, even though I was not baptized yet. So anyway, I wanted to to grow deeper in my faith. So I journeyed with RCIA. So I signed up for RCIA. Even though I was not baptized yet, I was going for masses with my then girlfriend. So there were a lot of instances, one of which, so there was, we went for a mass, and yeah, normally mass you have givings, right? Okay, so I happened to not carry any small note. I was carrying a big note. So I was like, oh no, I don't want to part with my big note. That's my hard-earned money. Okay, but yeah. So anyway, so I actually didn't give that big note. But after that, strangely, I felt, immense kind of sadness. It was like God trying to tell me, hey, how come you're so calculative towards me? Then I was like, I just felt really sad, I normally don't feel that kind of sadness unless like someone passed away, someone close. Yeah, it was really intense. And after that, after praying, after Mass we prayed for a while, so after praying, I went back to give the note. So eventually, yeah, I gave, and I think that was God trying to tell me, open up my heart, learn to be giving and all these kind of things. Okay. Okay, so that was just one of the instances. So another instance is, back then I was fetching my wife home. I fetched my wife home and I was driving back to my own place. So on the road, normally on the road I'm not super patient. Like normally when people cut in your lane or drive very dangerously, they are behind you or, they don't give way and all this kind of stuff, So it really pisses people off. But then, that night, it was, I think it was another miracle, I have to say that. I just, all of a sudden, I felt the, immense kind of love flowing out from my heart. I felt that, wow, I can suddenly start to love all these people on the road, which I would normally be, annoyed with. So, okay, wow, this is so intense. I could really love my neighbor. Yeah, so all this, I felt that that was the Holy Spirit trying to tell me something, right? So all this really, grew me. And I'm not sure whether I'm going off the slide. Let's see what's the next slide. Yeah, so anyway, fast forward, the conversion, went for the, So anyway, it was COVID. Last year it was COVID. I was supposed to be baptized, I think in April. But no thanks with the COVID. It got delayed. So we were quite worried because we want to get married last year in December. Or actually, today is our wedding anniversary.
So thanks be to God to have this opportunity to be here today.
Yeah. So we wanted to receive the sacrament of marriage because we wanted to be married, in the eyes of God and having God as a pillar to support our marriage. Yeah, so we were really hopeful and we were worried about the baptism being delayed, how long will it be delayed and so on. But fortunately, I got baptized in August. Okay, so we proceeded on with our plan to get married. So we got married in December, 5th of December. Yeah, so anyway, I must say that along the way, I really met a lot of great friends. So during the RCIA, I see that a lot of people there, they are very generous, they're very kind. Some of them always carrying a smile. Yeah, you just feel very peaceful there, very giving, very nice people. And on top of that, we also met some great friends. One of them is Father Damien. So I'm not sure whether you all know Father Damien. Some of you might have known. So how we met Father Damien was actually, my wife's friend. So that was before I was baptized, actually. So there was a talk, her friend invited her to a talk. And that friend invited Father Damien to a talk. Father Damien is a speaker, by the way. Okay. So that's how we got to know Father Damien. So after that, we exchanged contact, and we met out and had nice meals. And he gave me spiritual direction, confession, and all this stuff. Yeah, so it's very kind, and I can see a lot of generosity in him, right? Generosity of his time and all this. Yeah, which taught me to be generous as well. Okay. So I think your turn right there.
Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Okay. So what we want to share at this point is some reflections on our journey, right? And most importantly, it's really to pray, right? There are many times whereby our faith is not enough. Okay, sometimes we are trying very hard, okay, to reach God on our own. But many a times, it is God who is the one who initiates, and we have to depend on Him. Yeah. So I'll have to say that going through our conversion journey, right? I think one thing that we try to do is to try very much to always remember to pray, to keep close to Him. Some of the things that we do is, in the day, early in the morning when we wake up, we'll do a morning offering. Then after that, we would remember to spend some time in mental prayer. Okay, at noontime, we'll remember to say the Angelus, to rededicate our life to God. Before at night, when we sleep, we would say the 3 Hail Marys. Right, so these are some very nice Catholic traditions that we have learned and some of the things that we try to do to keep God, to keep our mind on God every day. And also, you want to share the next one?
Yeah, okay. So anyway, seek to know Jesus more. I think the idea is to try to know Jesus more in our daily lives. So very often we get led astray. Sometimes it's tiring, difficult, troublesome, and sometimes it's difficult to do the right thing. Sometimes doing the wrong thing is so convenient, right? Yeah. So it's really about tying our hearts with Jesus, and I think it's a decision to be made. So every day we try to make, although it's hard, we try to make this decision, to try to love. Sometimes it's also difficult to love, right? Love your enemy and all this. But yeah, I think it's just a choice that we have to make. Okay, so yeah, and also be open to what God is doing in our life. So certain things happen, like I said back then when I was a Protestant, right? So why did I drift away from God? Because a lot of things are not answered. A lot of things happen, disasters, loved ones passing away, all these kind of things. Yeah, but I think gradually I start to understand that, all this happened for a reason, and that reason we may not know, and we may not even know in our lifetime. But perhaps one day we will know, right, when we are in heaven. So that's what I believe. I think that's faith, something that you cannot comprehend yet. You may not be able to see it, but you just have to believe that.
And lastly, I think just like to share that through our journey, we have really received a lot of help. I think there's so many good Catholic resources out there that if we actually spend a bit of time every day, that they can really nourish our faith journey. I think I really like to read. From young, I just really like to read and find out. And I think that if you persist in finding the truth, we persist in despite everything. Okay, there's so many good speakers, good writers out there who have published so many good works. And I think for people who are discerning, I don't know, because today we have actually shared that our talk is more on our conversion. That if there's any Protestants here who are seeking still, that really, I think when I was Protestant, I was very against becoming Catholic because it just doesn't feel right. Okay, I was taught otherwise, but I think to really be open, to approach the faith with a certain openness and desire to learn the truth and to pray to God to give you that grace will really help us to reach the truth, right? Reach Jesus. Yeah. Okay, so maybe just a little bit of sharing on marriage, which was actually the theme of our talk, right? It's our journey to marriage, right? So although we have only been married for a year, I think it's a very short time in terms of being married. But here are some reflections that we've had, okay, from our experiences.
Yeah, love is a decision. So a lot of times, right, especially nowadays in the world, people come together because they're passionate about each other. Sometimes it could be sexual reasons, and all this kind of stuff. So, and normally when there are quarrels and there are conflicts, this kind of passionate feeling might tend to die off. So for temporary that, you can see each other as an enemy or very annoyed with one another. And that's when they, start to ask themselves, is our marriage failing? Is it going to end up with a divorce? So this kind of things. But I think, with God, if we anchor our love in God, then this would be different. Because God teaches us that, love is not just a feeling, right? It's a decision. So no matter how angry you are with the other person, always decide to love the person, right? So normally it's normal that, we'll say hurtful words and all these kind of things. So always try our best to not do that. Act out of love, no matter how angry we are. So I think that's something we try to do, and we try to remind ourselves every day. It's not that we quarrel often. Actually, we hardly quarrel. Thanks be to God. But yeah, that's what we try to do, and we will do that if, there are conflicts in our marriage.
Okay, so actually, when we were preparing for marriage, right, I was a bit kiasu, so I went to read the Catechism of the Catholic Faith. And because I thought during the interview, Father's going to give us a test. So actually, no. But through the reading, I actually gained some useful insights, right, about how beautiful marriage in the Catholic faith is. I think that, like what my husband Justin has just shared, that how in a Catholic marriage, both of us go to God, and we anchor our faith, our trust in the future, come what may, in God. That is something that is very beautiful, right? And and to understand that Christ is the source. Okay, so we try to have a prayer life. Okay, we seek God's grace through the sacrament of confession. Okay, we try to do that, and also that this idea of this ability to sanctify our work and our relationships, right? So in our day, we can actually live it closer and more in union with Jesus. We sanctify our work by doing everything with love, right? So that pertains to, maybe even washing dishes, right? You think about the person who is going to use the dish, like, after that. Okay, so it changes our mind from, like, hey, I have to wash this dish, okay, and it becomes a drudgery, okay, to, like, hey, I can, like, my husband's going to use it next, I'm going to make it as clean as I can.
Yeah, so you don't food poisoning, right?
Yeah, so far hasn't happened yet.
So the motivation is out of love, It's out of love.
Yeah, so we try, so to do all the small things in a day, right, with love, all right, and also in our relationships, after we have gotten married, our families have multiplied, right, so there's a lot of opportunities there to think of the others, okay, to extend ourselves, to meet every situation with love, So that is part of sanctifying our life, okay, our work, our relationships, and that's something that we can offer to God. And it's a beautiful idea. Like, after becoming Catholic, like, it's something that I've learned, or we have learned, that we can do every day. Okay, so this is a very nice quote that we like to go to. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So whenever things get hard, okay, I'd like to share that this verse is very, very healing, and we depend on God's grace through everything, right?
Yeah. So this is something we learn in the EE, Oh, this is something we learn in the EE. So we have to go EE, right? For Catholics, we have to go EE before getting married. Yeah. So basically, what God put together, we shall not put apart, right? So that's God's teaching. Yeah? So we always try to live by that, lah. So like I said, love is a decision, and continuing this love, is a great decision. So that's something that that we're going to keep together, and I think with God's help, we'll be able to sustain our marriage, and also at the same time, be open to life. Because everything is part of God's plan, right? So, we don't try to artificially control that plan, right? So that's what we have learned in EE.
Yeah. So I suppose why we put these few points here is because, like, these days, hearing from our friends, sometimes it's quite hard to leave these church teachings, and and sometimes it's just easier to take the easier way out, lah. Okay, like, maybe we can try not to live the thing that is hard. But I think that when we think about our conversions, okay, and we think about this gift of faith that God has given us, beyond our wildest imagination, if you ask me, like, 6 years ago, then I'll be a Catholic standing in front of you in a cathedral of Good Shepherd in the basement room, giving a talk on the Catholic faith, I would have told you no way. Okay, but so that is really, like, the amazing thing that God is able to do in your life if you put your trust in Him. So I think it's with this approach that both Justin and I, we try to read up on what the church teaches, okay, about the beauty of marriage, and we trust that there's a reason that God has designed it in this way, and our role is to learn how to understand and to follow in Him with full trust, because He's the one who will meet at the end of our life, right? Our life is not just on earth; it's eternal life. So yeah, so that's what we'd like to share about these 2 points, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and this is the last note actually. This is a very beautiful Latin phrase that after coming to Opus Dei, I have learned to appreciate more. Omnia in bonum means all things good will happen. What does it mean again? Everything will happen for the good for those who love God. Okay, so I guess in life it's very hard to imagine that there will be no suffering. Okay, so just to share the personal note, so both Justin and my mom actually had cancer before we were married, right? So during that time, one after the other, and it was a very difficult time, I think especially for me emotionally. But I think that something that helped me to get through is actually when speaking to a friend told me this, okay, omnia in bonum, okay, which is to trust God, okay, to trust that, it is good. Okay, so even though we couldn't see it then, okay, how this suffering can be good, okay, but holding on to this really helped me to be a better support to my mom. So that if there's someone who is sick, right, the thing that will be beneficial and helpful for them is not to have a sad person, with them and being succumbing to your own sadness, but really like to move forward in faith, and to trust that God has a bigger plan, and that our role is to live charity, okay, to be cheerful around them, to help them through their difficult time of sickness, and basically just to be a loving son and daughter to them, So if we manage to live this, to trust in God, okay, that whatever that He is given us is for our good, then we will really be true sowers of peace and joy, like in the gospel, right? That we'll be able to live with a Christian outlook rather than only a purely human one. Yeah.
Yeah. Be not afraid when love requires sacrifice. Actually, back to my wife's point just now, right? Oh, actually, back to my wife's point earlier. Sometimes, we have suffering and sacrifices are made, and very often we don't know why this happens, right? I would like to use this analogy about chess games, because I like to play chess. So I think of it as, God is playing a giant chess, right? And he has the ability to think infinitely many moves. So there's no way we can comprehend what he's doing, what he's planning, I mean, normally when we play chess, we try to think a few steps ahead of the opponent, right? Sometimes we can sacrifice a piece to win the game. So I think, God is trying to work through us. So not say sacrifice us, but he's trying to work through us. He's playing a game of maybe a good versus evil. So sometimes certain sacrifices are made so that the good will win eventually. So, if we work together with God, we'll be part of that plan. And, ultimately, we'll see good. And, I believe one day all of us will be in heaven.
And there's a reassurance that Jesus gives us that He will be with us no matter what happens. And that should give us a lot of peace and joy, right, through this life. And we just like to end our sharing on this. And thank you very much for joining us in our sharing. Yeah.
So, on a closing.
Okay, so I'd like to say a closing prayer. Justin will lead us. Yeah.
So, glory be to the Father, to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit.
As it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.